classes in October 2020 in all public schools,
Women's
districts,
Summit,
divisions,
araw po ng mga, buwan po ng
and
mga kababaihan
regions
ngayon.
to the Department
Nanood po
of
tayo.
Education. The preparation of learning continuity plan was required. This was used as guide in deciding which kind of modality in learning and teaching is appropriate for each
Nakalive ako
school.
YouTube. Hello.
The learning continuity plan
Hello.
was designed to set strategic direction in schools to ensure the school children acquire the new or the most essential learning competencies in the midst of the pandemic. Some of the challenges in the implementation of the learning continuity plan were the following: risk mitigation measures within schools and communities, because most of the schools in provinces and far-flung areas are far from the capital town. Another is alternative assessments and evaluation tools for remote learning, because the assessment and the assessment exercises in the modules are not sufficient. So they have to have alternative assessments and evaluation tools. Third is conducting classes in remote areas where alternative delivery modalities are not applicable. And the reason will be mentioned later. And another is teachers and students' readiness. Teachers are not ready to use online teaching, as well as students are not ready for this online learning and the use of other modalities of learning. Based on the learning continuity plans, the following modalities of teaching and learning were arrived at. Number one is blended learning. A combination of the use of modules, the use of radio and television programs, which are appropriate in particular situations in this school. Purely modular, the use of modules which were prepared by the regions, some by the regions, others by the division, and by teachers themselves in schools. This basic education is delivered. If the modules cannot be delivered to the homes of the learners, parents or guardians are the ones requested to get the modules from the teachers in schools. There is also the problem faced by schools, especially in far-flung and remote areas, where internet connectivity is poor or none at all. Also, the financial problems of parents who cannot afford to buy even cell phones or smartphones, much more iPad, tablet, and laptop. Some regions, divisions, and schools also cannot cope with the schedule of producing and delivering modules on time. So there are times when children at home are left at their home. In addition, there are some parents who are not capable of helping and tutoring their children in answering the activities and assessments in the modules. Thus, there are many concerns and challenges caused by this pandemic. Those involved and are tasked to deliver quality basic education are hindered from performing this very important task. Aware of all these problems, it has put together all challenges we have experienced in our respective countries, as well as the opportunities brought about by working from home and this pandemic. By putting together all the experiences and drawing upon our expertise as outstanding global women leaders, we hope to be able to address critical issues and common concerns toward the development of innovative solutions appropriate to our challenges in our respective countries concerning delivering quality education. Hopefully, each one of us can address critical issues and concerns towards the development of innovative solutions addressing the unimaginable effects of this COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you very much.
Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. My name is Attorney Mia Castro. I'm with the Consuelo Zobel Alger Foundation. Binabati ko po kayong lahat. Thank you for all, and thank you and welcome to all of our participants in today's Women's Summit. And congratulations once again to Global Peace Foundation, our partner, for once again gathering a lot of young people talking about these very important matters. My topic would be about safe spaces for women, and this is such a nice topic, and I would like to thank you for inviting us to share some of our perspectives on this. So una sa lahat, sino po ba yung Consuelo Foundation? We are a private organization here in the Philippines and also present in Hawaii, founded by our benefactors, Dona Consuelo Zobel de Ayala Alger. So we have a lot of programs in the country on the prevention of child abuse and also intervention on behalf of survivors of child abuse, neglect, and exploitation. And of course, palaging kasama dyan yung ating mga programa, ating mga advocacies para sa mga women and girls. So today, we're here to talk about safe spaces for women. So first is, what do we mean when we talk about safe space? You know, this is a very common phrase already when we say this is a safe space, or how do we create safe spaces for children and women. So maraming mga iba-ibang definition dyan. But basically, it is just a concept or a state of being or a place where violence, harassment, hatred, or discrimination are not tolerated. And of course, that really applies to women. Bakit natin masasabi na may mga ganong konsepto ng safe spaces for women? This is because, you know, historically, women have been marginalized. We all know that in the history, di ba, ng mga iba't ibang mga bansa sa iba't ibang parte ng mundo, madalas, hindi pantay ang pagtingin sa mga kababaihan. Kailan lang yung iba, hanggang recently lang nagkaroon ng mga right to vote ang mga women sa mga ibang bansa. Very recent lang din na pinapayagan yung mga women na magmaneho, yung mga things like that. So historically, we know that men were always viewed in society to be, you know, like the stronger sex, and they had many things that they had many privileges that only later on were being granted to women. So because of that, there is marginalization. And kapag marginalized ang isang sektor, syempre, kailangan nito ng mas karagdagang protection, gaya rin ng mga kabataan. So, ano ibig nating sabihin ng safe spaces for women? So, definitely, ibig sabihin nito ay we want to make sure that women, wherever they go, feel free and feel protected from violence, from harassment, from discrimination, from hatred. And how will we do this? Siguro yung tanong dyan, posible ba ito? Or isa lang ba itong panaginip? And the answer to that is, of course, this is posible. In fact, these are tenets, or these are very, very guaranteed rights sa lahat ng women sa anumang parte ng mundo. As early as 1979, there was a UN convention on this. It's called the UN CEDAW, or UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. We have the Magna Carta for Women. This is a national law applicable sa lahat dito sa Philippines, where precisely the principles and the provisions in the UN Convention that I mentioned earlier are embodied. What it means to be to have safe spaces for women, where that comes from, and this is really from the rights of women as equals to be protected from discrimination, protected from violence, protected from any form of harassment. And we have so many laws that guarantee this, global, international, national laws. And still, there are numerous cases of domestic violence, numerous cases of um, um, sex trafficking of women, numerous cases of harassment of women, or discrimination sa mga kababaihan. Nandiyan pa rin yan. Yes. What can I do? What can we do? Especially our listeners today, most of you, I think, are young people or young adults, and I'm sure you are so much more aware about these things. But at the same time, you're wondering, what can I do? Diba? Okay, so I listed 5 things that just are practical things that you can do. Number 1, know your rights. Pangalawa, use this knowledge, use this information of what we are entitled to, use the knowledge of our rights to empower ourselves. I always tell young people, children especially, that the best way to protect ourselves from any kind of abuse, any kind of violence, is to be aware that these things happen, and to be aware that we are worthy, we are important, that we have the tolerate the right to be protected from any form of abuse, violence, exploitation, whether physical, emotional, and all these things. Okay, pangatlo, what we could also do is to advocate and educate, no? So if we feel empowered, we also should feel free to be open and to voice out our opinion, especially if we did naman our reading or research, we know that may mga ganitong laws na kaya bastos law. We need to influence people, especially those in our circle. And then pang-apat na tip ko, let's be an agent for change. So aside from just little ways like that, pwede tayong lumevel up. So kunyari, meron tayong mga school organizations, pwede tayong mag-imbita ng mga tao na pwede magsalita para ipabahagi kung ano yung mga rights on gender equality, how to protect women, ano ba yung mga ginagawa noon na hindi na pwede ngayon, etc., etc. And we can create change because by just talking about it, we enlighten each other, and we can come up with, mga advocacy efforts to promote these new principles, to try to change the behavior, not just of our peers, but even of our elders, adults around us, and even our administrators, if we are in school settings, etc. Lastly, is to choose our leaders well. So this is more, malapit na rin, mag-election. We have to register to all our young people out there. I hope that you can register. And the reason I say this is because our leaders, our political leaders, our government leaders have a big responsibility. They shape the society. They're very, very powerful in declaring, diba, parang what is good, what is normal, what is accepted, what is not accepted. And kapag ang nangyayari ay meron tayong mga leaders that do not promote the equality between men and women, or that put down women, or that make it trivial itong mga matters, like make women feel safe from violence, from exploitation, from abuse, from harassment. And then nagiging mababaliwala yung mga ganitong mga bagay, which is not good at all. So those are my 5 tips, and I hope that we could do that. So again, let's know our right.
Let's know our right, women. We should know our rights. Huwag tayo papaapi. Ipaglaban ang karapatan ng kababaihan. Nawala yata si ma'am. Nawala yata si ma'am. Naghang si ma'am. Naghang po ang ating speaker. Yung mga gusto pong magpa-shoutout, pwede po. Mga subscribers ko, pwede po kayo magpa-shoutout. Shoutout po sa aking mga co-workers sa Barangay San Antonio, Cauayan City, Isabela. Shoutout po sa aking mga katrabaho sa barangay. Yan, ang mga mababait, ang mga Juana Wonders, sila ang mga Juana Wonders, ang mga BHW ng Barangay San Antonio, Cauayan City, Isabela. Sila po ang mga tunay na Juana Wonders dahil nagsasacrifice po sila kahit na po kakaunti ang kanilang mga allowance na masasabi. Nagtitiis pa rin po sila. Yun. Wala pong kapantay na halaga ang kanilang serbisyo. Yan po ang mga Juana Wonders. Mga mamshi. Yan, kaya shout out ko po sila. Unang-una po ang BHW ng Purok Uno ng San Antonio, Cauayan City, Isabela, kay Afrida de Dios. Shout out sa iyo, auntie. And then, sa Sitio Tabarok naman, kay Lilia Began. Ayan, shout out sa inyo. At ganoon din po sa Purok Tres, kay Jacqueline Badungon. Yan. Sa BNS ng San Antonio, si Raquel Basubas. Yan. Sa Purok 4 naman po, BHW ng Purok 4, San Antonio, Cauayan City, si Julie Villar. Yan. At ganun din po sa Purok 2, si Annalyn Tumbaga. Yan. Salute po sa inyo dahil ang inyong sakripisyo ay di matatawaran. Yan. Tribute po sa atin ang Women's International Month. Yan. Women International Summit po ngayon. Kaya dapat mapakinggan po natin, mapanood ang ating mga karapatan. Karapatan po nating mga kababaihan. Yan. We should know our rights para hindi po tayo inaapi. Yan. So, gikilo akpe apo habang bubuya akti International Women's Summit. Kaso, naghang po. Naghang si ma'am. Naghang pong ating speaker. Yan. Pa-shoutout po yung gusto pa-shoutout. Pa-comment down lang po. Pa-comment down below lang po. Sort out po ako ng egg. Ito po'y galing po sa aming farm. Fresh po ito. Fresh egg. Biglang nawala. Bakit kaya nawala si ma'am? Bakit po kayo nawala si ma'am? Naghang po siya. Shout out rin po sa aking mga sister-in-law na napaka-babait. Sila po ay unang-una po sa aming panganay na si Sister Daisy Agkawili Jacinto po sa Angadanan. Yan. And then kay Sister Julie Bulan. Yan. Shout out po sa inyo mga sis. Kay Ate Esther Abad. Yan. Shout out po sa iyo, Ate Esther. And then shout out din po sa aking mga pamangkin na mababait. Mababait po, sobrang mabait. Mga anak ni Sis Julie, kay Janine, kay Jen at kay Joy. Shout out sa inyo mga pamangkin. At ganoon din po, shout out din kay Jessa, kay Lloyd, yan, sa aking mga pamangkin. And then kay Jessa, yan. Mababait po lahat na aking mga pamangkin. Yan. Yung mga gusto po magpa-shoutout, pa-shoutout na po. Kay sis din, kay sis Jeng Agkawili, yan. Kay Ate Jessie Agkawili, yan. And then kay Kuya Arnel, yan. Shoutout po sa kanila. Kay sister-in-law po na si Daryl Agkawili, yan. Shoutout sa iyo, Ading Daryl. Kay Ading Michael, yan. Shoutout po sa inyo, mga kapamilya. Yan. Mga gusto po magpa-shoutout, mag-comment down below lang po. Kaya lang naghang po, wala na po. Bakit kaya, ano nangyari? Naghang na po yung aking pinapanood. Yung mga gusto po magpa-shoutout lang po. Kaya naghang si ma'am, wala sigurong signal. May signal naman ako. Nawala. Sa aking mga classmates, shout out po sa inyo. Sa St. Anne class po, shout out po sa inyo. Shout out sa aking best friend, si Daisy Felipe. Yan. Shout out din sa aking mga anak. Yan. Sa aking dalaga, si Lala, na nag-work sa Manila, sa call center. Kay Leander Agkawili na nag-work sa Peña Blanca, Cagayan, sa MCNP po. Yan. Shout out sa iyo, anak ko. I miss you na, anak. Magbakasyon ka naman, anak ko. Tagal ka nang di nauwi. Yan. Sa mga gusto magpa-shout out po, pwede po. Mag-comment lang po. What happened? What happened? Bakit po kaya? Excuse me po. Ma'am, nasan ka na? Ang speaker, wala pa rin hanggang ngayon. Wala na, naghang na talaga. What happened? LJ? Tingnan ko yung cellphone mo, anak ko. Kasi naghang ito, oh. Hindi ko alam kung ano ang naghang yung phone. Pati ito. Walang signal pala. wala talaga si ma'am. Ano nangyari kay ma'am? Nawala talaga. Asan yung eyeglass ko? Naghang po. Nangyari po.
And influential Secretary General of the United Nations.
Baka naman po siya.
There is one universal truth applicable to all countries, cultures, and communities. Violence against women is never acceptable, never excusable, and never tolerable. Thank you for listening.
Happy International Women's Month again. And on the second day of the International Women's Summit, my topic is women in public service. I used to say, be a politician? Never. But as the saying goes, never say never. My husband, being the eldest in a family of politicians and also a lawyer, was expected to follow the footsteps of his father and grandfather. But we agreed that only one in our nuclear family would enter the world of politics. However, in 1998, I was a last-minute substitute for mayor of the city of San Fernando, and this was about the month of February for the May elections. On my election day, I spoke of my vision for our city. Soon after, I was invited by the Deutsche Stiftung und Entwicklung to attend a 2-week seminar in Berlin, Germany, and our team was headed by the late Senator Aquilino Nene Pimentel. The first thing that I learned was that the vision of a city should not be made by only one person. It should be crafted and adopted by all the stakeholders of the city. And so when I came back, I ate humble pie. I called the meeting of the representatives of our stakeholders, and we came out with our vision, our mission, our strategy, and our goals. I'm sharing with you a copy of a PowerPoint presentation that tells you and gives you an idea of what we, not I, envisioned our city to be. To be a botanical garden city, because we had a 20-hectare botanical garden, which was a symbol of our commitment to the environment, for clean air, clean water, zero waste management. And we wanted to have a healthy city, not only physically, but emotionally and spiritually, and a springboard for regional progress. Our strategy was to develop a culture for quality life and work, bawal ang tamad, for skills, for jobs, magaling at mahusay, a magnet for economic investments. We came up with a credo because we studied that corporations that lasted for more than a century followed a credo, and we stated our commitment to our responsibility to our stakeholders, to our workers, to our management, our community, our country, our global community, and our Creator. Our vision, metamorphosed in my last term from 2004 to 2007, to have a city that was safe, because I was then a member of the United Nations Steering Committee on Safer Cities and Public Places, especially for women and children. We wanted our city to be walkable, with God-loving residents, hardworking, disciplined, enjoying basic needs and basic services, and developed in infrastructure in harmony with nature. And this is brought about by revenue generation. We identified development issues, concerns, and opportunities. We underwent the city development strategy with the technical assistance of the World Bank and funded by the Ministry of Construction of Japan. Arigato gozaimasu to Japan. Thank you to the World Bank. We made our CDS, our City Development Strategy, in such a way that we would work for sustainability, bankability, competitiveness, and livability. We went through 4 steps, and we can apply this to our own personal lives. We have to assess ourselves. Where are we now? Where is our city now? Where is our country now? Our development vision can be answered by the question, where do we want to be? Formulate strategies, and we say, how do we get there? And we have to come up with priorities and programs and projects. What actions need to be taken? We have to come up with a total package, implement, review, monitor, and we have to deepen our ownership and our commitment to this. We also talked of basic services that had to be provided. Now, they all are listed in one chapter of our local government code. But being a Filipina and very good in acronyms, I came up with an acronym. And it is Western Chains. W for water and sanitation, E for energy, S for solid waste management, T for transport, E for education, recreation, and N for nutrition. And then for chains, which they didn't like because they thought it would be the chains that would imprison. But I said, this is a chain that links us together. We have to communicate. Communication. H for health, A for agriculture, I for infrastructure in harmony with nature and environment, and S for shelter. During my term as mayor, we aligned our projects with the 8 Millennium Development Goals. Now, we have to align our projects to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I commissioned Joel Macanaya to compose a song of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals so that we can remember them easily. Number 1, eradicate poverty. Number 2, eradicate hunger. And therefore, if you're always eating, you will be healthy, you will have good quality education, and when you go to school, then you'd be able to learn about gender equality. And for the next 6, you now go to the home. You have water and sanitation. You need electricity. But you need a decent job to be able to pay for all of those. We need technology and innovation. And so we now have television, Netflix, and also those text messages using our cell phones. And this reduces inequality because then we are able to share our knowledge with so many people. And the next 5 would be about cities. We have to have sustainable cities because in cities we have irresponsible consumption. We have a lot of garbage. So we have to learn to reuse, reduce, recycle. And all of these problems contribute to climate change. And therefore we should also help and take care of the ocean and protect the earth. For the 16th sustainable goal, we have global peace. And you cannot give something that you do not have. So it is imperative that you have peace within yourself to be able to give it to others. And this is our goal, to have global peace. And this can also be attained through partnerships and through networking, which we are doing here in this International Women's Summit. Our elections will be coming soon in 2022. Let us elect public servants who will push for the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Let us elect not only men, but also women who are capable and who are leaders and managers who hold the tenets of democracy in their hearts and minds, who will safeguard families and the development of its citizens, who will help the schools to educate our children so that they develop not only their intelligence quotient, which, by the way, we are now the laggards in Asia as far as education is concerned. So let us wake up and help our schools to do this. We should also encourage our children to develop their emotional quotient, to be able to be sociable and not to just be holding their cell phones, send text messages. They should learn to socialize, and something which we have not been able to do because of COVID. We have not been able to conduct sports where they would learn how it is to win and to be magnanimous in victory and to take defeat, but not to allow it to break their soul. So these are the things that we have to do. Help our children. Help them be empowered, because they will be the citizens of the future. Let us observe our credo for good governance, for both the governed and the governor. Governance is not only for those whom we elect. We have to also step in and help them, although we are the governed. Let us be humane, loving not only our fellow human beings, but all God's creations, the plants, the animals, the air. Let us dream together, have a vision together, have a common mission and strategy, and as our national hero Jose Rizal said in his Mi Ultimo Adios, he said, we are loved by the sun, the pearl of the Orient seas, but a paradise lost. Let us reclaim that paradise. Where again, to quote Rizal, he said, let us have a place where there are no slaves nor oppressors, where one's faith does not kill, and where the one who reigns is God. Voy donde no hay esclavos, verdugos ni opresores, donde la fe no mata, donde el que reina es Dios. Let us dream.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most gracious, the most merciful. Greetings of peace, solidarity, and women empowerment to you all. I am very honored to be one of the resource speakers of this year's International Women's Summit. I would like to extend my sincere appreciation and gratitude to the hardworking organizers of the significant virtual event to celebrate women's strength, leadership, and power and make meaningful change and development across the globe, particularly the dynamic woman at its helm, Dr. Nona Ricafort. Allow me to begin my speech by citing some timely and valuable reports highlighting the roles and undertakings of women undergoing current challenges and bottlenecks across various development sectors in our society. As a woman, I believe that we should always consider relevant facts and figures to concretize and pursue development efforts and advocacies in our organizations and communities. As we all know, the emergence of the COVID-19 pandemic have abruptly changed the world. It exposed the world's vulnerabilities and greatly affected the lives of billions of people, even to this very moment. The pandemic has deepened continuing noxious inequities in many countries. The health crisis revealed susceptibilities in the spheres of human interactions, including social, political, and economics. Sadly, women are the hardest hit, and consequences are worrying.
Women's Summit.
Income are falling, work marginalized, and at home, women's role are reduced to cooking, cleaning, caring, and nurturing kids. The lockdowns and unemployment of male partners are potent threats to women, as male partners experience stress, boredom, anxiety, and unemployment. Women and girls are at greater risk of domestic violence. In April 2020, the United Nations published a policy brief on the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on women to determine the various dilemma women and girls experience. Cross-cutting significant areas where women play crucial roles like in health services, economic activities, security, and social protections, the impacts of COVID-19 are also magnified for them. Women and girls face more job insecurities, inaccessibility to health resources and services, unpaid care work, and gender-based violence. We all felt it in our homes, workplaces, and communities. These impacts made us more prone to fragility, conflict, and social emergencies. The UN's Progress on the Sustainable Development Goals report reveals that in 2021, around 435 million women and girls will be living on less than $190 a day, $1.90, equivalent to about 95 pesos in the Philippines, including 47 million who are pushed into poverty as a result of COVID-19. On the goal for good health and well-being, 72% of women are reported as infected healthcare workers. On gender equality, an estimated 243 million women and girls aged 15 to 49 were subjected to sexual and physical violence by an intimate partner in 2020. On quality education, more than 11 million girls from primary school to tertiary education are at risk of not returning to school. On decent work and economic growth, nearly 72% of domestic workers, most of whom are women, have suffered job losses or reduced working hours. On industry, innovations, infrastructure, women are more likely than men to be engaged in vulnerable employment and are more at risk of losing their jobs and their livelihoods. The COVID-19 has immensely paralyzed the Philippine tourism, trade, remittances, and the overall socio-economic impacts, which resulted in a considerable plunge in economic growth rate never before experienced in the last 3 decades. The overseas Filipino workers, which includes a multitude of women, are also severely hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. Approximately 85,000 OFWs returned to the Philippines. Another 300,000 workers are rendered jobless. The micro, small, and medium enterprises, where most owners are women, have been adversely affected likewise, particularly in the manufacturing and retailing subsectors. In Mindanao, the southern part of the Philippines, where most Muslim women like me live, we have personally witnessed the daily struggle and dependence of household women on the government's social support package to sustain their families' basic needs. A very painful and heartbreaking reality on the ground that reports and studies seldom capture. The United Nations says that to rectify the intensified inequalities and iniquities women face during this pandemic and build a more just, humane, and resilient world, there are three encompassing priorities that governments, civil societies, and critical players should prioritize. First, we must ensure women's equitable representation in all COVID-19 response planning and decision-making. For countries worldwide to collectively surpass and for women to mainly thrive amidst this pandemic, women must be allowed to speak, to listen, and participate in various economic planning and emergency response initiatives. Women and women organizations must be consulted both in the planning and decision-making stages of any COVID-19 strategies to demonstrate equality and equity of the community's intervention process. Second, we must drive transformative change for equity by addressing the care economy, paid and unpaid. No matter where women are in the world, a woman who is part of the healthcare economy ensures better prioritization of welfare through just and appropriate compensation and incentive package for everyone. From teachers to nurses, local health volunteers to medical doctors, women will never be in the backseat in terms of expertise and commitment to care for the infected, to ending the pandemic on a global scale. Acknowledging the women in the profession, dedication, and the risks that they have to face can be demonstrated in comprehensive, equitable, and sustainable compensation systems and programs. The restrictive gender norms and inequalities have no place to exist, for now more than ever, women health workers are foundational to the daily survival of many communities and economies worldwide. Lastly, we must target women and girls in all efforts to address the socio-economic impacts of COVID-19. We have to remind our leaders to integrate gender-sensitive paradigms in crafting fiscal stimulus packages and social assistance programs to attain greater equality, opportunities, and social services protection that are accessible to all, particularly for the women. Thus, the need for more laws to be legislated to address women issues is relevant. There is difficulty developing jobs and opportunities for women as we are still fighting to overcome our current situation. However, where we are and what we have now offered us time to innovate, work for breakthroughs, and pursue strategies that allow us to survive and thrive. Albeit faced with limited resources, women's resourcefulness will ever be abundant. Finally, as we celebrate today the passion and the strength of every loving, hardworking, and strong woman in this International Women's Summit, I would like to salute women all over the world who, although hardest hit by the pandemic, still do not feel handicapped, worthless, or less human. they remain capable and able to ignite the transformative changes in their respective households and communities. The pandemic made us realize that we are not just the spine that supports our households, our families. We are also the backbone of recovery in our countries. We have immeasurable power and potentials to bounce back and bring our country to a better one than before. In closing, let us all commemorate the 25th anniversary of the Beijing Platform for Action in 2020, which came out in the pandemic's backdrop. The Accord and COVID-19 pandemic simultaneously affected our lives, while the former offered bolder, contemplative, and realistic goals and actions for every woman, the latter tried to keep us in our homes and limit us to traditional roles. The pandemic, however, failed to put us women down, for we have emerged stronger and wiser than ever. We can, and we will always, make a difference in this world.
Next speaker po tayo.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rita Mariano, the National President of the Catholic Women's League Philippines. Our topic is on women in healthcare. Women are both users and providers of healthcare, and there is synergy between them. I will elucidate on women as users or consumers of healthcare. We envision a virtuous cycle that builds on the premise that women who are healthy throughout their lives experience gender equality and are enabled, empowered, and valued in their societies, are well prepared to achieve their potentials and make substantial contributions to their own health and well-being, to that of their families and communities, and ultimately to sustainable development. A woman's right to the enjoyment of the highest standard of health must be guaranteed throughout her lifetime, equal to that of men. Each phase of life has age-specific and gender-specific health risks, needing different interventions to reduce morbidity and promote survival. The early years, fetal, infant, and child stages are pivotal periods during which people receive several social, biological, and behavioral imprints that affect vulnerability throughout childhood, the reproductive years, and later in life. For example, poor living conditions during pregnancy, maternal morbidity, malnutrition, and other harmful exposures affect rates of stillbirth and premature birth and might affect development of chronic diseases that threaten physical and mental health throughout the life course. Social patterns have a profound effect on fetal health and development. For example, gender discrimination disadvantages some girls before or immediately after birth. Sex-selective abortion of female fetuses and female infanticide are severe expressions of gender-based discrimination. During adolescence, most girls and boys are in fairly good health, and mortality is lower during this period than at all the other stages of the life course. However, adolescent girls may encounter some health challenges. Some of the health risks of adolescent girls that may cause their disability or death may be due to childhood sexual abuse, unintended pregnancy, HIV infection, or other sexually transmitted diseases.
Wala naman na.
Sorry, ba't na? Kaninang umaga.
Wala naman na.
Hindi, meron pa ako yun.
Nawala. Nawala na naman.
Naglalaro kami kanina na ata. Sa kuya. Bakit yung sa atin? Mami, ba't sa mga